teams and some new players coming at you in Season 6. Welcome to United Rogue Overwatch podcast, Overcast. That is right, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between. We are back. There has been a lot of hype surrounding the return of Overcast, and we are here to deliver. Of course, as always, I will be your host tonight. I am a man of many names. I go by that soup can. I go by Ajax. I go by the community manager sometimes. I don't care. You can call me what you want. But behind the scenes, I've got a great friend who's also always here. We got Andrew for the return. And tonight, we've got a dope special guest coming in. We got Cool hanging out. How are we doing tonight, fellas?
Doing pretty good.
Great. I'm excited to get the season started with a new podcast.
Everybody's loving the podcast. Shout out real quick to Kamani for making the podcast intro, as well as the intro to the streamed games that, if you didn't see the draft stream, go back and watch it. It's still up on Twitch and will also be plugged in the YouTube channel. There is a link tree in the Discord server, so make sure to scroll up, find that, and sub to both. But you're right, we've got some draft. And huge shout out again to everybody, the players, the general managers, a lot of the staff behind the scenes. This is our first draft season, and it went awesome so far. I mean, just the draft itself, we had 100-something people watching at
I think
a couple
it peaked
points.
at 135.
I believe, yeah.
If I look at that
135. Jesus jumping Christ. All y'all showing up and showing out. Appreciate it a lot. If that is a sign of what's to come, then that is awesome. That's going to be a huge success for us. But success is something that every team is looking for as well. So when we talk about draft, we got to talk about the teams, how they're looking, what the rosters are, and I think we're going to go in order of the draft. Is that right, fellas?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes, we are.
So then we're going to start, of course, in Emerald, as we normally do. And if my memory serves me right, if I'm thinking the right thing, I think that thunk then thought means that Miami goes first. And I'm saying this, a little elusively, because I happen to be the GM of Miami, and I'm quite proud. I do, actually. Shout out real quick to, the Miami boys. I'm going to shout out a lot. That's my new thing. Get used to it. But the Miami squad, we had first pick, and because of me personally, Soup Can getting drafted up in Ruby, I was able to actually snag the first pick. And honestly, going through, I don't know how Ruby made it out. I was not, unfortunately, in that call. But I don't really think there were many snipes in the draft for Emerald, except for me drafting Doge first round. Definitely messed with some plans or two. Stan, I'm looking at you. How's Pitt doing without Doge? Get wrecked. But honestly, looking at the players I picked up and the kind of rounds that they went in, especially, I think I made out pretty good. Getting basically a team of Emerald veterans at this point. You've seen a lot of these names before. You've got Doge, you've got Dragon Master, Kamani, and Storm. Those players themselves have been around for a fat minute. You've seen the success they've had. And now we're picking up Blue and OG, two players that I've had my eye on. A lot of people might remember OG from being the junk that just kind of eviscerated combines. I am very excited to put this team together and kind of see how they, mesh as teammates. Some of these guys have played together before, but now we're under Miami and we're looking for the W.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely say you had a lot of really great picks there. Like to shout out OG Buns, taking it like a champ. Definitely still a one trick Junkrat. I'd like to point that out yet again.
Yes. And just so you know, one trick is the highest standard of praise possible in United Rogue Overwatch. Do not take that.
This is true. we'll talk about him in a bit, but we keep calling laggy against you one trick. My boy shot up in the rankings, but like I said, that'll come in a little bit. I obviously biased looking at this roster because I picked it. From an outsider perspective, I do really enjoy looking at this roster. There are a lot of great names on here. And not only that, but there's consistency around the board. You kind of start looking at what roles people are playing. I obviously know because, again, I'm running the team. But it feels like there's a lot of flexibility. It looks like there's a lot of great players. And I'm very excited to see how Miami does. So Miami had first pick. Next pick, I really like this human being, and he was mad that I also picked Doge. Dill over in Detroit picked up what I can only describe as COD and Washington 2.0. I mean, if you look at this roster, first off, great roster. Again, these are names that have been around for a little bit that you should know. Huge names that I'm looking at. Last season Emerald MVP, DPS or Sam hanging out. Light last season Emerald champion coming from Dallas. You have Zuop again. Last season I want to say got a role star, but I'm not entirely sure.
I think so. If not, in season 3 for certain. Season 3 they definitely got it.
Yes. So you see a lot of these names. Dill, also role star from last season. Shout out Pitt. Dave has been a very solid name coming up these past couple times. And now you've got a new face in Fly joining us over in UR Overwatch. Excited to see how Fly performs, especially on this DPS role, because there are some scary names surrounding DPS in this league.
Yes, I do like to point out, though, I would like to point out that season 1, Fly is suspended for Detroit, so we'll have to see how they perform week 1 without Fly as one of their main roster.
Or just week 1
not having a Fly. Yeah, week 1 not having a Fly definitely is going to hurt them. Andrew, when you look at this roster, are you thinking, brief thoughts, surface thoughts? Are we thinking top 2, middle 2, bottom 2 team?
I feel like it could be middle to the top 2. It's going to be hard to kind of putting any team at the bottom, honestly. I'm not... There's potential from everyone here. But I do like seeing that Sam and Zuop are back on the team. Light being a previous champion from the previous season, it's going to be a strong pick. So I'm excited to see how this team really goes throughout this season 6 here.
I am excited as well, but not as excited as Trash Can, who finally gets a Houston team down in Emerald. And looking at this roster, I am very excited to see a very familiar face coming back, hopefully leading the team as the man is the captain. We get Biscuit back in the support role for a little bit. Didn't know if he was going to sign up. It was a little uncertain, but Biscuit is back along with Big Green. That support duo is going to be nuts. But then you get to look at the rest of this squad, and I'm looking at a lot of new faces. Cool. When you're looking at this roster, which of those 3 new faces in Insanity, Marked Up, and Thunder, which of those 3 are you most excited to see?
I did get to play with all 3 of those in a lot of the combines, so I am definitely very excited for almost every single one of them. But the one I'm looking at the most would probably be Marked Up. Marked Up performed very surprisingly well on DPS during the combines, and definitely one to look out for.
I am excited. This roster really does scream kind of make or break. You have some seasoned veterans, of course, in the back line. But, if Marked Up is performing super well, along with the other 2, then hopefully this team can go out and do some damage. But another team that is returning, still in Emerald, still hanging out, but they're returning in a big way. We're looking over at Booger in Montreal. This team, I think I'm jealous of. I'm going to be honest. This is the one team I get to look at that I'm kind of jealous of. What'd
You
you
got
say, Andrew?
Seawalk back, you got Parasite, you have Booger Bear, you have Dead Inside, you have Tracer Racer, Calaho. Two new faces, I believe, but like the other four are like seasoned veterans in this league, and multiples of them have won a championship.
Title or an award.
He's either
And you
made
bring up a great
grands,
point.
he's either been in grands and got the dub.
True. There's a lot of familiar faces on this roster as well. I think, Booger obviously getting himself dead inside is the only one on this roster that has played for Montreal before, as well as I think the only player outside of maybe two that have actually played for their original team in Emerald. But looking at the last two kind of unknowns, Tracer Racer and Calaho, I did not get a chance to play with Calaho. I did get a chance to play a couple of games in the combines with Tracer. Honestly, was one of my potential scouts in my draft plans. So I know that they are going to be a pretty good player and one to watch out for. But when you look at this team, I mean, I think this is probably top two teams looking at this roster. I don't know if you guys feel the same, feel different, but I'm looking at this as one or two right now.
I agree. I'd say I'd put Montreal 1 personally.
Ooh. I'm not sure for me. I would put them top two, but I don't know who takes the first spot in my mind. But they're definitely a contender for it, or at least a strong one.
I would 100% say so, and I think a lot of people agree. But when you look at this roster, I think this has the potential to go the distance and get their first dub, get their first championship, and finally secure it. Montreal's been around. I want to say every season, right?
I can't remember.
They were in season they went up to. Oh, they might not have been season one. Maybe. I'm not sure.
My memory's bad on that, but they've been here for since season 2 for certain, and the legacy of them has been like the Shanghai Dragons, as I've been told from every other person, like about you, from like 0 to hero.
It truly has been. All right, for those who don't know, Shanghai Dragons in the official Overwatch League, they were a team. The very first season of the Overwatch League, there were 40 games that each team had to play. Shanghai Dragons went 0-40. They did not win a single series. Now, in Season 2, it took them 3 more games to finally win, and then they beat the Boston Uprising, I think. But Montreal, for a while, struggled to get some wins, struggled to get any wins. They bounced from Emerald. They were in Ruby one season. And then recently, they have been picking up traction. Last season, they did super well, made it to playoffs. This season, they are looking to replicate that success and go even farther. But a team that they're going to have to play a couple of times, if my memory serves me, and a team that has won championships before, is going to be Pitt. We see the return of Pitt, and on Pitt, we see the return of 2 players. Zeke and Bowser both come back over into the Phantoms. And now we get to see some newer faces. Bonaparte, I believe, is new overall. Saucepan was hanging around last season. And then you get Salty Jinx and Chisato, who were both on Baltimore.
The correct name gets proven to be here. I don't know how to go on with that. Correct name. So many casters said the name wrong. I feel so bad.
Wait, how have people said it before?
I can't even remember. There's too many.
I feel like it's always been Chisato. Am I crazy?
It just look at the words. I don't know how you mess it up. But anyways.
Chisato is now Chip. All right. Chip and Jinx are coming over from Baltimore, hanging out in Phantoms now. And this is a team that I played for Pitt for 5 seasons in a row. This is going to be the first season I'm not with Pitt. A little sad. But this is a team that I think Stan really kind of crafted together. There is a lot of chemistry between Zeke, Bowser, and Saucepan. I believe as well Jinx and Chisato also know Bowser for some Rocket League stuff. So this team has a lot of back-end synergy. This is going to be probably what I'm going to label as my dark horse team. It's going to be interesting to see how they perform, but there is a pre-existing kind of relationship between some of these players that I think can carry them above where a lot of other people would kind of place them.
Yeah, this team looks very strong, I think, on synergy. I'm only guessing from the names, with the Discord names of Salty Jinx and Shisato. I think that they got some strong synergy just before they even joined the team. And then, of course, we have the GOAT Bowser. Notoriously famous Somber player, was able to take a 3-0 clean sweep in Ruby. Didn't even have to do anything. That's how good they
Undefeated. Almost
Undefeated
unkilled.
streak.
I think he ended with 3 deaths.
Oh,
shout out that game. If that is also saved on YouTube, go back and watch it. I think that unironically might have been Pittsburgh versus Montreal in season 3. The 0 damage Sombra from Bowser was absolutely elite.
I cannot remember if we have the footage. I hope we saw the footage.
We pray.
Yeah, but got some interesting info though from chat. Apparently, Zeke and Bowser are 13-0 in Rocket League Pit team. So
I feel like I knew that. I think Bowser told me that at one point.
Okay.
I probably knew, but probably ignored him because he's stupid sometimes or whatever. I don't care. But yes, I know for a fact Zeke and Bowser definitely have a very good synergy. Let's hope that can carry over to Pittsburgh Overwatch, especially, the team itself. You look at it, you got a couple good players. There is always importance of who your GM is. And Stan being the GM of Pittsburgh that we've seen now when he was a captain and now 2 seasons as a GM, he brings in some helping. So, there's going to be some good VOD reviews, going to be some good advice. Shout out to Liam specifically for helping Pitt over the past couple of seasons. Don't know how more that's going to go considering he might be playing for Ruby. We'll check that in a second. But Pittsburgh, if they are starting to lack in some of that actual mechanics and, game sense, they've got some behind the scenes helpers to kind of boost that. So taking a look at Pitt, I think they're going to do, pretty well. Obviously, again, they're going to be my dark horse. Looking at all 6 of these teams, Cool and Andrew, I'm going to ask you both, who do you think is your dark horse team? And then who do you think takes it all the way?
I think we might have actually skipped over a team there.
Yeah, I believe we did.
Oh, yeah.
Kansas City. That's crazy. In my head, hold on. In my head, I was like, we're going in draft order. I'm looking at the draft order. And then when we got to Montreal, I was like, oh, let's just go to the right instead of following draft order. Shout out my brain being dumb as heck. Kansas City. Thank you, boys, for keeping me on track. Kansas City is returning after a 3-season hiatus. Someone can fact check me on that.
It's been a while.
Maybe. It's been a while. Don't copyright me.
They played in season 3. I
okay, so yeah, 3 seasons.
It was about 3 seasons, yes.
Look at that. Speaking of season hiatus, when you look at this team, there are 3 names that pop up on here that, remind you of a hiatus. God Killer was picked up, and he was not seen since season 4 on Chicago. We've got Crystal, who has not been seen in a little bit as well. And then you have Infernal Spear making a comeback all the way back from season 1.
Yeah.
These 3 players we have seen before. We know what's coming from them. It's now on Janitor, Twisted, and Nevro. Nevro, I think, also big Rocket League player. I think this is one that I've heard from
Sounds
Bowser.
familiar, but I'm not the most certain. But
I want to say I know this name for a reason. I just don't know why. But it's going to be kind of on them to see how they fit. They are a Rocket League player. I'm a genius. I'm an absolute genius. I pay attention, except when I don't. These players, we're going to have to see kind of how they stack up. You see kind of what the goal is for this Kansas City team is to have this clash of veterans and newbies, put it together in a way that then is able to elevate their performance and make sure that these kind of personalities that have been here for a while can help develop some of these newer personalities on the team. And honestly, I think they can do pretty well. I would personally put them middle of the pack. I'm not sure if you guys would have them higher or maybe lower.
I have a different thing. I feel like this. If you look around across the board on their ranks, by the way, just on that alone, none of them are below even into silver on this roster. They have a good on, and they've all played every role to at least into ranked. So they at least know what roles do, have like a general idea of like the game and how it kind of plays out. I think this team has the potential to be very strong. This would be my other top 2 pick along with Montreal if I was a betting man, but I cannot choose between the two for myself.
Man is a betting man, but doesn't like to bet. Crazy.
True.
Cool. Where do you think they're kind of falling in your rankings?
I think I kind of agree with you. I think right now they have potential, but I believe I would currently put them middle of the pack because I want to see how they stack up, like, communication and whatnot. So it's a very vast variety of people, and we'll see how that works out for them.
I am definitely excited to see this team. And now we are going to do the thing that I was trying to do earlier, but I forgot. And I apologize again, Kansas City, Jarhead. I'm sorry. Now, who do y'all think is winning it early? Who's your early favorite? And who do you think is your dark horse? I, of course, am going to put winning it all as Miami, completely unbiased. There's no bias whatsoever. Don't come for me. But I am putting Pittsburgh as my dark horse. I think they can sneak their way into it.
We're voting on just dark horses, like who we think is like the most surprising.
Who do you think is your dark horse? And then who do you think wins it all? I know you said you were kind of between Kansas City and Montreal. So then who do you think is the team that is going to surprise you the most and make it farther than you expect?
It might be Detroit for me. I'm not sure.
I like
the
Detroit.
I fully trust like Zuwap, Light, and Sam to like do some things, but across the board it's kind of even still. So I'm not sure. I think they are like kind of the most dark horse that could still win it, or that can come out on top over everyone as the season progresses. So I feel like they have like a lot they can just like develop together as a squad.
I like it. Cool. Who are you thinking is your kind of unexpected hero in these teams?
I'd say unexpected. I'm gonna go Houston here. I think they definitely have a lot of newer players that I believe did really well in combines, and I'd like to see them play. So I think right now I'm gonna have Houston as kind of like the heavy hitter that no one's expecting.
I like it. I think a lot of these teams, we haven't even started season 1. Now I'm saying it. Week 1. We haven't started week 1 yet. But I think a lot of these teams have a lot to prove, and I am excited as we're already scheduled 2 of those matches, just kind of waiting to see when Detroit and Kansas City can play. But 2 of these matches are already scheduled coming up later this week. For now, we are going to step away from Emerald as we now get to go over to the higher echelon, the upper tier, the 7th layer of the chakra. I don't know. I'm kind of making some stuff up. We're in Ruby, baby. We're going over here. And oh my God, this draft was nuts. I heard firsthand that the GMs were arguing and yelling and doing things. I don't know. I heard it was chaotic, and I personally think that's a good sign because that means there's a lot of players getting sniped, a lot of players that are getting kind of pulled one way, another way. But one team that I think we kind of have to agree made out like a bandit, Buffalo. They got first pick.
100%.
Dear Lord, this team is scary.
Double top 500 players is insane, by the way.
I mean, we need to. All right, so we gotta talk about some stuff. First and foremost, Laggy. I don't know what happened. Laggy went in to the kitchen and came out a Michelin star chef because this team is nuts. Getting nap time in himself in the first 2 rounds, and then Shogun dropping to 3rd round, getting him for free. Then getting female. I'm so sorry. Definitely not trying to pronounce your Discord name. And Pineapple later, and then snagging Johan very late in the draft was insane. I don't understand how the fact this just was able to happen, but this team looks stacked. I mean, this team is crazy looking. They are a star-studded roster. My question for you both is we've had this issue in the past where you look at a roster and on paper, it looks like the best by miles. And then eventually they crash and burn. Do you think Buffalo is going to break that curse? Or do you think Buffalo is going to fall into the same pit that a lot of teams have had when they have such a huge roster behind them?
I think that this has potential to not actually be a crash and burn situation. But historically, every time this has happened with a team this strong on paper, it has fallen through like below the bottom floor. This has been the weirdest curse to see across the like all of your Overwatch. We're just super goated team just does not even either doesn't schedule a time or something weird happens like that. Either they just fall out as players with each other, or just someone just like gonna abandons and just nothing goes right. So I think they can break it, but it has not looked historically well.
This is true.
I would agree. I think having 2 EU players is definitely going to be a struggle for scheduling for them. And if they can get over that, though, I think they have a really strong team lineup. I know plenty of shot callers. They've got strong people in every single role. It's going to be rough for every other team facing them.
I really like the point that you made that the EU time zone change is going to be a bit hard to schedule for them. But another thing that I think you brought up that we didn't really talk much about in Emerald, it's important down in Emerald, but it's vastly much more important up here in Ruby is the shot caller. Having that leadership position and being able to, step up, make the calls, make the plays, have your team kind of rally behind you is massive. And I think that Buffalo has some players like that, but a team that I know for a fact that does have that is going over to, funny enough, your guys' team over in Vancouver. When you look at this roster and you see Adbon on it, you know the man is going to do everything in his power to rally the troops, grab the team behind him, and sometimes drag him kicking and screaming. Adbon is a known veteran at this point. Everybody fears the man because he is just that mechanically goated. Now, when you pair Adbon with a new player like Identity, I've heard is very good, and then you pair him with the both of y'all who are also seasoned veterans, pair him with Smooth, who's been hanging out for a while, pretty good player. But the issue comes icy because the man has never won a championship because he's cursed by the Demon Lord or some other crazy rambling stuff. I mean, that's just an interesting call from Ricochet. Getting the man who's been cursed for forever onto a team is nuts. Jokes aside, Icy's a very good support player. Having him in this lineup is going to be awesome. You both are on the team. Any good, juicy insider gossip or opinions or fun things we get to hear in Overcast?
Nothing except this Andrew pick. Kind of throwing. He's not very good at like anything he does. It's kind of sad, honestly. Just kind of fumbles when playing. He only plays like a single tank. I've heard. He kind of gets diffed by everyone.
I thought I've heard 2 tanks.
Oh, there's a second tank. Oh, I didn't hear about that one. I heard one got nerfed. Oh no! Actually, wait, no. He got unnerved. Never mind. No,
one got nerfed and then one got nerfed and unnerved.
He got unnerved. I'm safe.
No, I mean, we're definitely still kind of working on all that. But as a team, I think we've already had a couple scrims now. I think we're really working to become that team that you were saying. Like, get our shot callers, figure out our team. So we'll see with the first game that we have against Buffalo. Actually, funnily enough, yeah. I'd say overall, again, Adbon's been really great at doing shot calling. Identity also really great at that. I know, like you said, that we don't know much about Identity yet, but I think shaping up to be a really great player. But I do believe, like you mentioned, I think the Icy Curse might just have something to do with Icy plus War Curse. So I think we pulled that curse away. I think
Mm,
I think our team has a good shot here.
You're gonna have to find out, I guess, because
threw that
Izzy
curse on
does
Emoto.
have the curse on him. What's up?
We threw that curse on Emoto. Emoto has to deal with it now.
Oh,
Yeah,
it is true.
it's now
Moto
Moto
might have to
issue.
deal with it. There is a curse on Washington, of course, but we will get to them in a little bit because the third pick came from the draft, came from Baltimore Kraken. Arunos is back bringing the Kraken for another season. And we get to see the return of Choco coming in, the return of Arunos coming back. And then we get to see some of these other faces that you might recognize. We're going to see Trash Can coming over to play for Baltimore. We're going to see Cake coming up. And we're also going to see Fran/Pingu. And then, of course, outside of these players you've seen around for a little bit, we got the new addition to Gingerbread. And when looking at this team, I am really excited to see the fielding roster, right? In my mind, there's a clear cut path of who you're going to field and when. I think Gingerbread being, I think it's like Diamond 2, Diamond 3 across the board, being a very consistent player is huge. Means, just in case you need to flex him around, you can. But having this roster set up is going to be a good setup. I think, the question for a lot of these teams is for some of your lower picks, how much value can you get, right? And so when you're looking at this roster, we've seen Arunos win Ruby before. We've seen Trash Can do really well in Ruby before. Choco has been insane. And so now you have to look at Cake and Fran stepping up into the Ruby limelight and taking on some of these players who, let's be honest, they hit a lot harder than some of these Emerald players. So I think this team is kind of make or break on those two individuals.
I would say I'm not as worried about Fran. I feel like she will do pretty solid in like the Ruby environment. I from watching like their gameplay back in Emerald, that they didn't really like kind of struggle when getting jumped on, and I feel like that will just you may have like a little bit of a rough spot like early on, but you're gonna get over that hurdle, I think later. Cake, I know is a prominent DPS player, is really solid. I've had the pleasure of like playing with them even like outside of in this league's like matches. So another really strong pick, I'd say, and has the I think the potential to bring them up is just very good for both of these players.
I would agree. I think, you've got to worry about these two. I think they've proven themselves over several seasons of, kind of their ability to play up to the level of their opponent. It's going to be a new beast coming into some of these Ruby teams, especially a team that we're about to talk about who just won it, kept a similar roster, but had some interesting new additions. We're jumping to Chicago, where you see a lot of the familiar faces. You see Blue Jay, you see JD at Darklaw, you see Ghostface hanging out again, Creek did. And now you get the dynamic duo, the Pittsburgh Power, coming at you in Chicago of Recon and myself. I don't know how it happened, but for another season, I'm going to be playing DPS. Someone free me for the love of God.
The veteran DPS player clearly is like
This is so dumb.
It's a fair one trick, you've proven yourself pretty strongly in the range,
I'm playing May only.
Oh,
I won 2 championships on May.
That was
May
the only one I can't praise. I don't know what to do about that.
So what I'm hearing is you are a DPS veteran.
This is dumb that I've now backed myself into a hole somehow. I hate this.
I'm glad Chicago got their May 1 trick.
Was it worth it? But honestly, huge shout out to this roster. Again, the 2 that they are missing is going to be Vanguard and Kent from last season's star-studded roster. And so now Chicago looking for the back-to-back win. JD slash Darklaw looking for the first time ever in UR history, 3-time back-to-back-to-back. There have been 3-time champions, but this man's looking to do it all in a row. And then, of course, you've got a great supporting cast around them. My big concern I kind of want to ask you is when you look at this roster, you see a lot of great support players. So there will have to be flexing to other roles. Do you think that Chicago is going to be able to control that, or do you think that there are going to be some issues?
So again, I know what you're saying. I would agree with that. I think there might be some issues because I know you yourself, JD, definitely Blue Jay, like a lot of really great support players that are then going to have to flex to different roles. But the thing that I will point out is that most of those support players have also won games as DPS or tank in other seasons. And so you do have to think about that as well. And I think they should be able to handle it, but I believe they would then also have the ability to switch to who can play which role, right? So they have a lot of flexibility in that regard, and that can be very strong. So I wouldn't be super worried about it.
I'm definitely excited for a new team, a new experience. I get to stay with my boy Recon. We're gonna get to hear JD's stupid farm merge crap, and I will love it. So Chicago
They're
this
playing the
season,
farm thing. Oh my.
dude, JD is a farm merge freak.
Ugh.
I've been told several times that last season, before every match, JD would warm up not on Overwatch but on farm merge, and they ended up winning the season. So maybe that's the secret sauce. But a team that's probably not playing the farm merge, but has a pretty solid roster, in my humble opinion, is going to be the Cursed. The now Ruby coming back. They were Ruby at one point, but now they're coming back. Washington Rebellion. This team excites me so much. One, because Liam's on it. I cannot stress enough how much Liam is a great player. I think especially in the back line. We've seen Liam in the past. Liam has been a great tank over in Philly on season 3. Liam was supposed to play on Philly last season. Then, some drops happened and unfortunate circumstance. But Liam, I think if nobody has seen this man play Zen, you are in for just a frag montage. The man has genuinely carried games on this support. And so when you pair that up with some of these other players, you got Moto and Guna coming up playing with Liam. All 3 of these players have been around for a while. Moto, Guna, very good players as well. They're no strangers to tough competition. But now you've got Angry Cat, Confessor, and CP3. New players, but so far, I mean, looks like a pretty solid roster. My question becomes, what do you make the starting roster? There's a lot of talent here and a lot of overlapping talent between roles. How do you pick somebody to bench? It's a great roster that you kind of look at and go, where do we find playtime?
Yeah. I
So
could
one thing I do like to point out is that you do have CP3, although a great player, showed up great in the combines. Only placed on tank. And so if you're going to run CP3, that has to be your tank pick. It kind of does put a hindrance on the rest of the team in that way, because a lot of great tank players coming from War here. So I could totally see CP3 playing a lot of games, but also I'd see them possibly benching CP3 multiple games to sub in for those lower ranked players, just so that they can have that flexibility.
I definitely see what you're talking about. I mean, having a player with one role does kind of make it a little bit harder, but I think that Washington does have that flexibility within their roles to be able to change it up if need be. I am excited absolutely to kind of see how they pit together their kind of roster. But, when looking at this team, we'll obviously have to wait to see how their lineup kind of adapts over the season, especially when their lineup has to go and start with the last team. Double checking myself, making sure that I did not skip a team again. Um, making their Ruby appearance for the first time is going to be our last team in Ruby, the Dallas Vanguard, 3-time Emerald champions. And now Log has taken up the Dallas mantle coming up into Ruby. This team, I think, is the one that a lot of players are looking at, which is going to struggle. There are great players on here. Dyer was a great support last season over on Philly. We've seen Strider have huge pop-off moments on the hit scan. We've seen Log and Zach win last season in Emerald. Colbert has been hanging out, I believe, on Halifax for a little while, doing and playing some great games. But putting this roster together, it gives me a little fear. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if you guys feel the same, if y'all are confident in the Dallas squad, but I think this is the team that might struggle the most.
I would agree. I think they're definitely going to struggle against most of the other Ruby rosters here, especially when they go up against Buffalo and some of those other like really high ranking teams mechanically.
Let me double check. Yes. So Dallas, one of the things that we'll talk about in a little bit is, of course, the schedule. But Dallas is in the same conference as Chicago and Vancouver, so they'll have to play those teams twice. Thankfully, you don't have to play the team of Buffalo, looking like our number one pick right now. But having to go against Chicago and Vancouver twice is not going to be easy. When you look at this team, Andrew, who do you think is the shining star that helps bring this team together? Who do you think lifts this team up and says, hey, we win this, we're going to push through and punch our way back into grand finals like we did so many seasons before?
My eyes are on Dyer, really, to like hold that mantle. I've got to play with him last season on Philly, and dude was an amazing support player. Could also, I think that was like their first time really focusing on playing Lucio. They weren't even like that much of a Lucio player, but they just learned it just for the season, just to play with us. So picked up on a character just to help us out with like the team we were running, and it went very well. We made it to grand finals, so and a game 7. So I feel like for someone who can adapt as well as that, it's probably going to be a very strong presence there. But I can't leave out Strider or Chlorine or Chlorine as well. I haven't really seen Chlorine because I believe they're new. But Strider, I know, is a very, very prominent DPS player. Can do a lot on that role. So still some decent threats here that I don't think we should be keeping out of the eyes for Ruby going into the season.
I can see a world where this team is able to punch their ticket back up into playoffs. We will have to see. There is 7 weeks. One more time?
There's 7 weeks.
Yeah.
I have one more thought. This is reminding me a ton of Season 3 War. This is like a night and this is like a 1-to-1 comparison to War Season 3. Looked on paper to be the worst. Made it to grand finals undefeated. Yeah. Undefeated made it to grand. However, this is Ruby, not Emerald. But the storylines kind of add up. Where like the underdog on paper can like show up and just put a staple onto the scene here. So I'm not fully batting them out.
But I don't know. Maybe it could be the return of that Season 3 Washington team. Another team that I was thinking of is, I believe, also Season 3 in Ruby, Mexico City. That team did not play like a single game, squeak their way into playoffs because of a bunch of forfeit wins, and then almost beat Philly. If it weren't for Choco having a huge last minute, it was like map 4 and a huge last minute just clutch play from Choco to seal it in. But that team all season, no one really saw much of them. A lot of people had them low on the power rankings. And then just a huge explosive finish for that team. This could be another scenario where Dallas is like those teams and has a huge comeback in the end. But I think we might all be in agreement that Dallas might be our dark horse pick then.
Yeah, I think it would have to be.
Would agree with that.
They are definitely still on our radars, but another team that is on our radars is, of course, going to be Buffalo. I personally am still going to put them as my number one overall. Looking at these 6 teams, do y'all agree, disagree? Who do you think wins the season just looking at preseason?
I think it's Buffalo. Dude, I don't want to deal with that time, man. I think it's Buffalo.
Andrew already terrified of playing a tank game against nap time.
I'd say I'm definitely the most scared of Buffalo for sure. Just having both the top 500 players on the same team, along with Johan, and not to mention Laggy, but Laggy is there.
Yeah. Not including the person that we actually know how they play, Shogun, who is an amazing.
I was going to say, you played on Philly with them.
Dude can run comms like it's nothing, and like can just look at all the situations, just know how to deal with it. That dude is scary. And then you have nap time, and I don't know how to deal with nap time, man. They play Diva. I'm screwed.
Andrew will unfortunately lose the tank mirror when it comes time, but we don't have to worry about that for a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. What we will have to worry about are these week 1 matches, most of which have been scheduled. I think we are missing just one right now, but popping back up over to Emerald, we've got Detroit versus Kansas City. I believe that's our only one not scheduled right now. We have Montreal versus Miami coming at you on Sunday. We've got Pittsburgh versus Houston coming at you on Thursday. Now, taking a look at these 3 matches, I am curious to hear what your guys' match of the week is for Emerald. Which one's got you the most excited?
I'm most excited for Pitt and Houston. I think those are 2 teams that look pretty strong. I'm very excited to see how they do against each other.
Cool. I would definitely say it's 100% for me, Montreal versus Miami. I am very excited to see the dynamic between the 2 teams and see which one comes out on top, because I'd say those 2 are probably the strongest 2-team roster-wise that I was looking at. So I'm definitely excited to see that match.
I absolutely non-biased again agree with Cool. I think Montreal Miami is my match to look out for. Again, run the team, whatever, yada yada yada. But like you said, Cool, on roster, these personally are my 2 top picks for early favorites for winning this season, and I think this could be a huge indication of kind of how some of these other teams are going to have to adapt to each other. There's a lot of rotations you can make within these lineups. I think it'll be a great story that we'll have to wait and see. Taking a look at these matches, going off of the start, Detroit, Kansas City, who do you both think wins that game?
I think on paper, it's Kansas City. Again, like really strong players, at least on paper, with the ranks. I haven't got to really see too much of it other than knowing previous history from like Infernal Spear being a season 1 Ruby Grand Finals champion. So got some veteran people who know how to run in a league before. And same thing for Detroit. So I can't really say. I feel like it's Kansas City to me, but I can't really give off too much why. That's why in my gut I think wins this.
I am definitely setting kind of the Stones. I'm looking into the tea leaves. That's the thing I was trying to find. I'm looking into the future. I see a Detroit win coming. I think Kansas City looks like a great team. I think Detroit itself has a lot of great player personalities that bounce off of each other very well. And already, some of these players have played together. Zuop and Sam / DPS, obviously war veterans. Dill and Light are pretty good buddies. I think this roster comes together and has a lights out performance against Kansas City. Cool. Where are you thinking for the score line? Where are you thinking?
I would agree with you. I think communication is everything when it comes to Emerald. If you have a team that communicates well, your team is going to do very well. And you see that happening in most seasons. Dallas, huge example. Dallas has always had the same roster for a really long time, and they can communicate so well because of it. Same with War. War had a really strong showing in every season just because they had that same roster and they knew each other. They bounced off each other so well. And I think that's going to really play a big role in this first week match between Detroit and Kansas City here. I think Kansas City, again, mechanically, I think might just be the better team. But like I said, Detroit just has that communication. They have that love for each other, and that works really well.
So now taking over Montreal, Miami. Andrew, who do you think takes that dub?
This isn't a hard one. I feel, well, maybe not that hard. I think it's Montreal. I'm actually thinking about it. I think Montreal is a really good one. They got a lot of great players, got a synergy with them. So Miami also has a lot of veteran players who have a synergy with each other. Can't forget about Bowser. Or no, Bowser's on Pit. Am I stupid? Never mind.
Can't confirm.
Bad memory. But ignore that. I think Montreal here will take the dub.
Cool. Who's winning? Montreal, Miami.
I'd say it's a really hard decision here. I think I'm definitely excited for the match, but I will agree. I think with Andrew. I think Montreal just has again that synergy I talked about with the previous Detroit versus Kansas City. Most of them are returning players, so I believe they just might understand each other a little bit better. But you never know. I think Miami does hold a really good stake here, but I am going to go with Montreal.
I am, of course, going to stand with my squad. Miami wins 3-0. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You knew it was coming the moment I brought it up. But ignoring that, I think this game is going to be a banger. But the last Emerald game that we want to talk about is going to be Pittsburgh versus Houston. And I might have a hot take here. I'm predicting Pitt to win. I've got a feeling, again, not biased. This one legit not biased. Looking at these roster, I think what happens to Pitt is they get off to a strong start, kind of hang out for a little bit, and then at the end of the season, punch their way back. And I think this starts with them beating the Houston Flames. I think it'll be close, but I'm going to give Pitt the win here. Cool. Who do you think, Houston or Pitt?
Now, and I know I keep bringing up the same situation here. Again, communication is key. I think Houston definitely has a really strong roster, but I don't think many of them have played together at all. So I think definitely also giving it to Pitt. But I think if Houston can pull together and start communicating, do maybe some scrims together, I think they have a really strong chance. And we'll see how that plays out on Thursday, I guess.
Is true. Andrew, last Emerald match, Pitt versus Houston. Who takes the W?
I know Pitt has a really strong communication, but I would not bat down the communication on Houston. I know a lot of players on there that they've been in here for a long time and know how to communicate. A lot of winners on that team. Prominently Biscuit, literally a 3-time winner in Emerald. He knows how it goes down. But also there's a strong coaching for Pitt with Liam, kind of by their side. But we can't forget about Trash Can leading Houston in Emerald. She's the GM. She wanted to make this team and has worked really hard to get this team. I think that she's going to be pretty invested to try to help them out. to get to a standard that can beat any other team. So I'm actually going to give it to Houston. I think they do still have a strong chance here.
I like it. Well, that is going to be it for Emerald. So now going down over to Ruby, we've got some games coming up. First and foremost is going to be Baltimore versus Chicago. That is going to be Friday night. Then you got Buffalo versus Vancouver, I believe, on Saturday night. And rounding things off, the El Clasico, as we'll call it, Washington versus Dallas, coming at you on Thursday night again. Which match are we most excited for?
This is a really hard decision here. I think what's really interesting about this week 1 match is you have a lot of really important matches to decide things that might happen later in the season, like semis and finals here. War versus Dallas, again, like you said, returning champs from Emerald. Definitely really strong teams in Emerald. I'm really excited to see how they play out in Ruby. But that's like a story that we've already seen. So I'm not as excited for that, but I still am excited to see them in Ruby in general. I'd say that's the one that I'm looking forward to most is probably Vancouver Buffalo. Top 2 teams in my opinion, and this is some bias being on Vancouver. But just in general, Buffalo got away with the steals from both the top 500s and like just a really strong roster. So I'm definitely excited to see how that plays out. But then you keep in mind that these two are on separate conferences and will never fight each other again until either if they both make it to semifinals. So I think that's a really interesting matchup, and both the teams could drastically change in the time of the entire season happening.
I like the answer. Andrew, are you picking the same game, or does another game have your eye?
No, I'm picking the same game. I think
crazy.
I agree with I agree with Cool. This is like in my opinion, top 2 teams. We never get to face each other again, and this has the potential to be grand finals in my eyes. I'm very interested in how this will actually play out, except for the fact that I have to fight Snap Time. Don't love that.
He's so excited. You can hear it in his voice. I am going to have a different opinion. I am going to say my most entertaining match of the week, my most hype excited match of the week. What do you think it is, Andrew? Take a guess. Take a gander.
It's Baltimore, Chicago.
It's not. I want to see Washington versus Dallas.
You want to see it again?
I want to see Washington Dallas because this is not the same game. These two teams have upgraded their rosters, changed their rosters drastically, and moved up into Ruby, where the competition is a lot higher. And I think this game specifically will answer a lot of questions that we have. Now, similarly, I believe this goes for all of our week 1 matches. Every single week 1 match, both in Emerald and Ruby, are matches that will never be seen again unless it's playoffs. This is literally just conference 1 on one side versus conference 2 on another side. So Washington, Dallas, this will be the only time we see it all season. And I think this will help answer a lot of questions as to how will Dallas stack up to the competition. And for Washington, kind of where fielding that roster is, what those kind of gaps are there. I am excited to see this this kind of game, especially because, again, my boy Liam's in there. So you're right, Andrew. There was a little bias. You just didn't get the right one. Crazy. Looking at these 3 games, Baltimore, Chicago. Who do you think takes it? Cool.
That's tough. I think both teams have a really strong showing. I think when looking at Baltimore, Chicago, I think what we talked about before, I think Chicago has really strong picks, but I think I might give it to Baltimore here. I think Choco, such a strong DPS to have on your team that it's really going to play a big role in week 1 here. I think Trash Can backline as well is just going to be able to support heavy, just a really strong support in every season, being able to save their team in I'll say it from last season, Houston. Like, even when I was on support, I'm not a great support, so she kind of carried the entire team's healing. So I'm going to give it to Baltimore here, but I think it's going to be an interesting match, like you said.
A close match for sure. Andrew, are you thinking Baltimore as well? Are you leaning towards Chirac?
I think I'm also going to give it here to Baltimore. I know that there's the three-peat that's possible for JD at the end of the season, but I want to see what Baltimore can do here. I think they have a very strong synergy here with Trash Can and Artist being paired up once again. And Chocoman on DPS is just too scary.
An opinion, and I think people can figure it out. It's Chicago. I am a man who is controlled by bias, a puppet on a string, a man who is bribed by very little, almost nothing, in fact. But I'm putting Chicago as the winner because I can. That's what I thought. Going over to the next match, Buffalo, Vancouver. I have a crazy thought that you both are going to say something, so I'm going to say something first. I think you both are great. I think everyone at Vancouver is great. I think Buffalo, mechanically, probably the better team. I think this could be a great win for them. If this is a loss, I think this could be the start of a downfall, like we've seen through a lot of teams. I am going to give the win still to Buffalo, but I think this is going to be an important match to set the tone for the rest of the season. Andrew, where are you going for Buffalo and Vancouver?
It's pretty hard to say. I think I'm going to also say Buffalo.
Crazy man doesn't believe in his own team. He's gone.
Nah, I don't believe in myself.
Ricochet, get your man.
It's a secret, like actual. What is it? It's opposite day scenario here. Yeah, I think it's Buffalo. You know, this is really strong. You know. Yeah, I know. I think the double top 500 is crazy. Nap time's also crazy. Dude again plays literally the things I play. I can't like go into Diva and be able to expect that they don't know what to do against it. But I got some other characters I'm actually quick enough that I'm not really revealing, but
we'll see. Got some stuff cooking up.
But I think on paper Buffalo takes it against us. But if they don't, I think we got some new number one talks to talk about.
Very true. Cool. Are you in on the Buffalo train, or are you sticking with the squad?
It's really hard for me because I'm kind of like you. I go with my bias typically, and I'm a big Rico fan. I'm a big me fan. I'm a big Adbon fan. I'm a big Andrew fan here. Yeah, but I'm also a fan of most of the Buffalo roster. Like Laggy, my goat Torb, 1v1 in season 4. You know, I know Pineapple personally. It's very strong DPS. Just having both the top 500s and Johan, my goat, just it's really tough here. But I think I will just to have a different opinion go with our team. But I'd say it's very almost 50-50 even between the two teams. So
I like it. I think this is definitely a match that we need to look out for. But there is, of course, one more match. My most excited match, I am picking Washington to beat Dallas. I think that the roster on paper looks way better, in my opinion, on Washington. I think that Dallas, this is going to be a good, as I said earlier, just a good testing ground to see where these two teams fall. But I think Washington takes the edge. Andrew, are you picking Washington, or do you finally have your bias coming back out for the Dallas team that you used to play for?
It's hard to say, you know. Dallas has such a good legacy, you know. You can't always go off of just what the roster has. But in this case, I am going off what the roster has. I do think War takes it against Dallas. Also, historically, War has taken it over Dallas during normal league matches, so the history kind of favors this as well. But I do think War on paper looks just a very strong team here, and I do see kind of the faults that Dallas might have running into them for the first time. This is a good test for them for what they can do as a roster, and can even like maybe turn some heads here, maybe get the dub and just really shock everyone. Just another War situation all over again from season 3. I'm excited to see that happen again. I know it didn't happen last season, but I'm excited to see it happen again.
This is going to be an interesting game. Cool. Are you leaning towards red or blue? Washington or Dallas?
Yeah, that's a
I think
interesting way to put it.
I agree wholeheartedly with both of you. I think Washington just seems to be the mechanically better team in this regard. I'm a big Frog Squad enjoyer, so I'd love to see them.
The Frog Squad.
I know the original squad is not there though, so but I do always love to see Washington, and I want to see a Shanghai Dragons come out of them.
That would be so sick. They just start turning around and win a season off of it.
Get them to win Ruby.
It could happen. It might be coming up. But what is coming up in the near future could be these matches. And by could, I mean will. Please keep an eye out for when these go live. There will be 2 Thursday night, 1 Friday, 1 Saturday, 1 Sunday. And honestly, a lot of these teams are going to be testing the waters. Week 1 is always a rough week to play. But keep in mind what we have said here tonight is opinions. It's not law. What will be law is something on the horizon, something that we might be looking forward to. There might be some official power rankings by a couple of UR members. So please be on the lookout. We might be doing that. We might not. I don't know. It might be a thing. Just look out for it. But something that we are going to start doing here, a new addition, I want to shout out Bowser for giving me the idea, is every week you will see an announcement coming out from the United Rogue Overwatch Overcast squad. We're going to have question of the week. Now, this one is a couple of questions, if I'm to be honest, but it's the preseason. You gotta get a little here and there. And the questions this week were: who do you think, the nice people at home, who do you think wins Emerald? Who do you think wins Ruby? And who do you think is the early MVT? That is a term coined by Andrew. Most valuable threat. And Andrew, I think we have the responses. I think we have some charts. Do we? Question mark.
Give me a second.
We might.
We might have some charts.
I might be thinking we
in
might
the
have
meantime,
some charts. I would love to kind of talk about how this is going to happen. Basically, every week we are going to have a question. I'm going to send a ping out in the community. And all you got to do is click the form linked into that message, go through, answer whatever silly questions I ask. And some of these answers we are going to talk about on stream. And to kind of get into it, there are a couple that I want to talk about. We're going to save the goods for last. We're going to see who the people think wins Emerald and who the people think wins the Ruby for a little bit. But what I want to talk about to start is most valuable threats. We got a lot of great answers. And kind of taking a look. Hey, we got a graph. There's a huge Montreal population coming out. A lot of Montreal fans, a lot of people thinking that this team is going to do super well. A couple of our Detroit fans got a couple votes in there for Houston, Miami, and Pittsburgh as well. Kansas City, right now, the fans are lacking. If you're a Kansas City fan, I need you to come back in swinging. All right, your team's missing it right now. Now, one of the responses that we got for some of these, of course, I did ask why you all thought this. I like to get opinions from the people. It's not just me yapping the whole time. But I want to shout out Foliage, who has a great response. Foliage, for those who don't know, huge season veteran. Also curse similar to Icy. The Philly curse goes strong. But, Foliage has here the Miami squad winning. And a quote from Foliage. First off, shout out to Kansas City and Montreal for also fielding good teams on paper. Miami has consistency across the board, and I'd say the least likelihood of tilt in close situations. I trust them the most to piece a winning combo together, assuming they get some practice in. I think that's a great answer, not only because it's more than 3 sentences, or sorry, not 3 sentences, more than 3 words, but also it, brings a good point. I think that these 3 teams in Montreal, Kansas City, and Miami all have some great rosters. But I really like kind of the point he brings up of consistency. That is going to be a key factor getting into it. But another kind of response that I wanted to bring up is, of course, Biscuits. Biscuit voted for Houston, and Biscuit's response, because, come on, it's me, the Biscuit. I got to root for myself. That made me laugh and giggle, so shout out to Biscuit. So these are kind of, how the people at home are looking at for Emerald. But Andrew, do we have the Ruby graph?
We do.
We've got the Ruby graph. And again, a similar, there is a winner, but this one's a lot more close than I think people would expect. We see a lot of love for Vancouver, a lot of Washington in there. Chicago's got some, Baltimore in there. Buffalo is that next third. Dallas, again, fans are lacking. We need the Dallas fans to come in. But now looking at some of the responses, talking about the squad over in our Ruby, I am desperately trying to find it, and I think I went the wrong way. There it is. Found it. We have Trash Can voting for Vancouver, and the response from Trash Can, this one is tough. I think Buffalo, Baltimore, and Vancouver have some really solid teams. That being said, both Buffalo and Baltimore have EU players, which could end up being a big hindrance. Vancouver has the potential to clash personality-wise, but I think it'll be close in the end. I think that, again, this is a great response. I think this kind of brings up multiple teams that are in the lead for early favorites, but I also kind of can see some points. Time zones are a pain in the butt to schedule around that might prove to be an issue. These are, of course, the early season before anybody, actually gets to play a game. This is just what people think. Talking back now into the most valuable threat, we've got a couple good answers. JD thinks that Bowser is the Emerald most valuable threat because he said he'll play Torb only. So Bowser, if we see anything other than Torb, you are banned. But another answer that we got is Parasite. Parasite is going to make a return this season, not on Dallas, but we've seen this man go crazy. I'm excited to see how that works out. My boys, joining me for this podcast, who do you think is your most valuable threat in Emerald right now? Who is somebody you're looking out for?
Kind of hard to say for me. Actually, I have not thought about this yet. I don't know. For me. I think Biscuit is a very strong choice. Oh, I think Biscuit, Parasite, Zuwap, Sam. I think Sam I would actually give it to. Sam had a really strong tank showing in last season. Was he, they fell just short of getting the dub, but I think that was just unfortunate for them. They had a really strong showing. I don't know. My pick is probably Sam. I love the dude. Loved how they play tank. Just looked really good from previous seasons.
I like the pick. Cool. Who are you thinking of for this MVT?
So I'm kind of on the same wavelength, but I'm going in a different direction here.
Ooh.
Tank wise, I would like to say I'm gonna put Doge as most valued, um, because I Doge has always been a strong shower in most of the Emerald tank gameplays, but like looking just even just at ranks in general, like I think Doge is such a strong pick because he has the value of being able to swap to other roles as well. I think when it comes to DPS, I think or Sam, right? I think
Yeah.
really strong tank pick, but I haven't seen much of their DPS or support. So I think this is where I give it to Doge. I just really strong tank and having the ability to swap, I think is going to be really important for their team.
I like the answers. Now we are going to go take it over to the Ruby most valuable threats. And I see a lot of Adbon. I see a lot of Blue Jay. Those are some names that we have seen before. One answer that I kind of want to shout out is from, again, Trash Can. Quote specifically, word for word, Johan, I won't be able to handle another Onodiff. Feel free to share these exact words and state that they came from Trash Can. So there's your wish. Quoted word for word. Johan is a great pick. I think an insane fact that Johan was dropped to like round 5 and then snagged by Buffalo. Huge pickup. But another player that we're going to shout out is Nap Time. Couple answers coming for them. JD says probably Nap Time because top 500 tank or, just the usual Adbon. So I think these are some players that we got to look out for. Again, I'm going to throw it over to you two. Who are you looking out for the most? Andrew, do you also have to? Yeah, is it nap time? Is it crazy nap time?
Dude, I don't want to deal with it.
Nobody would have suspected. Andrew picks the player he's scared of. Cool. Who are you thinking?
I am unironically going to have to side with Trash Can's opinion here. Johan, my goat, 100%. He is such a strong player in every role, and he is a fantastic shot caller for the team. And I think if they do not have just that strong voice that backs up and has amazingly well laid out plans, I think without Johan, I think Buffalo would struggle. But because they have him, I think just such a strong pick. So I'm going with Johan here.
I like what I'm hearing. Now, we've heard from us about, some of these great players, some of these great teams. We've heard from the people at home, the players, the fans, the in-betweens. I think we need to hear it of who's going to win. We've heard, a lot of great opinions, but there's one opinion, Andrew, that I think we need to hear the most right now. Do you have any idea who that could be?
I can only think of one person that could really say he's going to win with utmost confidence and with obscene determination in their choice. Just like the knowledge to be able to decide it is just so deep.
I think I might know who you're gonna. I think I might know. Cool. Who do you think's gonna give this star opinion?
I would have no clue here. It must be just me being a new caster here. Let's find out.
I think it's time. Andrew, show us who gives us the opinion.
I believe it is time for the wheel.
Foliage.
Wheel time.
That's crazy.
Who actually wins Emerald? We know who actually wins Emerald. The wheel knows who actually wins Emerald. Of course. It knows so much. Oh, I love the wheel. You all love the wheel. You all better say you love the wheel. That'd feel bad if you didn't.
Shout out Wheel Goat.
Now
remember, whatever Wheel says is law. So
true,
get ready for this. Unless it's not what I like.
I mean, do you not like this? Do you not like this?
Pittsburgh is coming for the 3-time, baby.
Dude.
Oh, that's so good.
Are you kidding me? You're kidding me. How did this happen?
I saw it creeping to Miami, and I was going to get hype, and then I saw Pitt. I am okay with this outcome.
Pitt is a very, very good choice. You know, the wheel knows all. You know, Pitt has a really strong roster, a lot of synergy on this team. So they're gonna go far.
I can't believe it was Pitt. That's so funny. All right, shout out Pitt. Time to see who's gonna win on Ruby.
Of course.
All three of us playing in Ruby, so this could go really good or really bad.
Guess
Oh my god! Who
It
would have
knew.
guessed?
How did it know? It just knows. The wheel knows all. Clearly, it's Buffalo Bolts, the team we all knew was gonna be #1.
There's no way the winners this season is going to be Pitt and Buffalo. Buffalo makes sense. Pitt coming out is great. I mean, the wheel knows all. The wheel has spoken.
It makes sense. It makes total sense. The wheel knew it. Clearly.
You're right. I apologize deeply to the wheel. What?
Dude, the wheel's so good.
The wheel is the GOAT, and apparently the Pittsburgh Phantoms and Buffalo Bolts will be your Season 6 champions. I think that's it. We just need to chalk the season, throw it away. Season 7 coming at you in the near future. But speaking of things we're going to stop this podcast as soon as we wrap it up. Gentlemen, any last-minute thoughts? Any last-minute quips? Any last-minute things you want to put out there into the world?
That's all good. I'm just joking. I hope you all have a great season. This is going to be very exciting. I cannot wait. We've done so much effort to try to get this thing set up, and I think it's going to go well. Cannot wait to see how y'all think about the season.
Definitely looking forward to it.
Awesome. Then I think that will do it for us here at Overcast. Thank you all so much for watching. Be in the ready. I need everybody to be at the ready for these games coming up. Like we talked about, we've got 2 Thursday games, one at 7, one at 8:45. We've got a Friday game at 8 o'clock, a Saturday game at 9 o'clock, and a Sunday game at 7 o'clock. These are all Eastern, and we're still waiting to hear on Detroit and Kansas City. Please stay tuned. That is it for us here at Overcast. Signing off. Have a good rest of your night.
See y'all, guys.
Adios.